Hello, and welcome to the Ocean Explorer podcast brought to you by SAMS. In each episode, we'll dive into the wonderful world of marine science with the help of SAMS researchers and special guests. In this very special episode, we have left SAMS and our guests of the Ocean Sciences meeting in Glasgow's Scottish Event Campus. The largest event of its type anywhere, and organised by 3 international societies, this is the first time OSM has left the United States. To talk about the event and the hot topics being discussed this week, I am honoured to have with me the American Geophysical Union's Executive Director and CEO Janice Lachance and Senior Research Scientist Deborah Bronk, President and CEO of the Bigelow Laboratory for Ocean Sciences in Maine. Welcome both to the Ocean Explorer podcast.
Lovely to be here.
It's wonderful to be here with you.
So we're recording this episode at the start of day 4 of the Ocean Sciences meeting. And you two have been here pretty much all week, maybe even before then. And you've been speaking to a lot of people. So I'm really keen to know what the hot topics are in ocean sciences. What's everybody talking about? Yeah. What have you been meeting people to discuss?
Yes, definitely for me, it has been about the drop in funding for science and specifically for ocean research. It's been a very, very difficult time, unfortunately, led by the United States pullback from science overall and from ocean research specifically. It's remarkable that when you tally up all of the research funding across the world, only 1.7% goes into ocean research.
That's crazy.
That is crazy.
Because the ocean touches every continent. And so many people depend on it for food, for medicine. I mean, there's so many incredible discoveries coming from the ocean, not to mention sea level rise and all of the other things that are really affecting the population. So to think that it's only 1.7% globally, and now it's even being reduced by what is typically thought to be the largest funder of scientific research.
You touched on something there about how it affects everybody. I always say the ocean has no borders, and you can't put borders on it. Although we have economic zones, exclusive economic zones, because of the way the water moves, literally it has no borders, and you can't segment it in that way.
So I think that's one of the roles science can play, especially ocean science, in a world that seems to be increasingly divided. I mean, even during the Cold War, the United States scientists and scientists in the USSR had active collaborations in ocean science. So it's the science diplomacy that can happen is really wonderful when you're traveling all around the world in ships, because the ocean is one giant ocean. So it's also one of the great things about this meeting is you see people from all around the world wherever this meeting is held. So it's been a really wonderful meeting this week in that sense. It reminds us that we're all, I don't know, I was worried people were going to be really mad at us because we're coming from the U.S. and there's so much chaos in the world that us pulling out of 66 international organizations the United States has pulled
66.
out of. 66. We've just been pulled out of them. And which is just really traumatic, especially for scientists that have worked so hard in some cases to really build relationships in those organizations. But I feel like we've been able to commiserate, and I've gotten a lot of hugs from my international colleagues this week. So it's been really lovely.
Yeah.
That's quite a sad picture. Yeah, I'm sure.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting is that it means that gatherings like this one are especially important because there's so many other venues that now have been closed off to researchers, and collaboration is the key to scientific progress. And you talked about how the ocean has no borders. I say science has no borders. If you want to study rivers run through countries. They don't recognize political boundaries. So that's how we have to approach any kind of research, any kind of scientific advancement. And every time there's a dent in that, every time there's some sort of impediment that gets put up, we all feel the pain.
from this side of the pond, I'm aware of political decisions that might be that are impacting environmental science. Can you kind of spell out what is happening on your side of the Atlantic?
Yes. Well, AGU is a global organization, so we don't worry about what side of the Atlantic we're on. But in fact, what's been happening with the United States has been extraordinarily harmful. One example, the repeal of the endangerment finding, where EPA had recognized that the environment has an impact on human health and well-being. That has been repealed. And with that goes the ability to regulate greenhouse gases or air pollution, water pollution. So there's a very specific and harmful result of that for individuals. And there are a number of other situations. Deb brought up the fact that we've withdrawn from any discussion globally about climate. So that means U.S. scientists are sidelined too. It's not just that there's a gap at the negotiating table.
They must be feeling quite isolated.
Well, they are, except organizations like AGU have stepped in. So what we did was partner with some 10 other research organizations, academic institutions who have official standing at, for example, the IPCC. And when the Trump administration announced that they may not nominate U.S. scientists to work on the IPCC reports, which are critical to
That's unthinkable, really,
knowledge.
isn't it?
Yes, it is unthinkable.
Really?
And we stepped in, and we actually nominated some 300 accomplished scientists, and the number that were selected actually exceeded what the
Probably what would have happened.
What the federal government had
Really?
done the year before. So we're very, very proud of that, and we're looking for opportunities. There's no way the AGU can replace what the federal government did for climate change or for scientific research. But where there are opportunities for global organizations to step in, either individually or in partnership, especially with other organizations, with academic institutions, with people who share our values, we're going to do it.
Good for you.
So, and that's one of the silver linings that I think will come out of this crisis is we've had to think differently about how we coordinate, what the actions are. We can't rely on the federal government to maintain all of these things. So hopefully, I think the U.S. government will step back in and engage. At least that's my hope. I can't imagine we will stay out for very long. But they will be stepping back into a much more cohesive, unified system because we've had to build those extra tentacles out and connections. So in the long run, I'm a glass half full kind of person. Lately it's been with scotch. But that's not true. I've only had one and it like burned all the way down. But I'm more of a Prosecco girl. But in the end, I think anytime you kind of knock scientists off their kilter a little bit, they'll think differently. Good scientists or creative will find a way to work around something, and that could be a silver lining in the end.
And I just want to pick up on that because many scientists think that any involvement in developing public policy or in advocacy is being political, and they value their impartiality. They spend their entire careers basing decisions and findings on data and research. The reality is that's changing now. So one example, there's an organization in the United States that has really been the core of climate research, and that has been proposed to be dismantled. And when we notified our membership about that, 37,000 communications to members of Congress ensued from that call. People are starting to understand that numbers matter, that their voice matters, that they have credibility, and that they should use it to object to these cuts, object to these policy retractions
I wonder if that's a generational thing. In my experience, the younger the scientists I work with, perhaps the more inclined they are. And whether that's just a kind of life stage thing or whether that is a generational change, I don't know. Yeah. But in my experience, the younger ones are I
think the younger
vocal.
ones, or on the other end of the spectrum, the older ones that really were young adults in the 70s. I feel like they are on fire right now. Right? They're like, I
baby boomers. The baby boomers are...
So
waking up.
And then, kind of, I'm last year the baby boomer generation. The next couple of ones, I think, kind of were like, I don't know how active they are, but you're right. I think there's two ends of the spectrum. Right. With that policy discussion, there's a way to engage in issues that impact policy, and that you can keep your ethics and your integrity as a scientist. But that is a skill that I see young scientists that are so passionate and they want to engage. And I'm in meetings every so often. I'm like, no, okay, pause, because, I'm on a radio. I can't make hand motions.
Well, we're recording you today, remember.
Okay. So another thing that I think could come out, that's coming out of this that will have long-term benefits, is students and early career people in particular are learning how to appropriately engage in the political process, where they know the line they can't cross as scientists. Okay. And then, but what they can do anything they want to as citizens, but just don't wear, for example.
That, or they instinctively know?
No. So Oceanography Society and the Association for the Sciences of Limnology and Oceanography, the other two societies, are dealing and trying to have programs to help the early career folks deal with a lot of these issues. And right. I know, we discuss it at Bigelow Laboratory. So everybody's trying to figure out how to engage as best they can. And it is a skill. You need to know what you can say, what you shouldn't say with your professional hat on, give the data. And then I'll often say, no, I'm taking off my hat, and this is what Debbie Bronk, not president of Bigelow, thinks, right? Because... And you need to
make the distinction.
Because I don't speak for everybody at Bigelow on some of my opinions.
Right.
But I do when it comes to the data. So it's a skill I think we're acquiring and honing.
Yeah, but I also think you hit on something with the younger generation. And it's good and bad. The good news is that they understand that public policy has an impact on their work, no matter where in the world they are. These funding cutbacks aren't only happening in the United States. They're across the board, and they know how important that is. The downside is that they are thinking about public policy as an alternative career. So they are thinking about their science training and how it can help inform really science-based decisions, which would benefit everybody. But it's also pulling good people out of scientific research, out of the important work that has to be done. But that's the reality we're living in. They can't count on funding. They're not sure what the job market will look like. They're not sure what their future is. So they're thinking about how they can meld all of their interests. That's good news in a way, but a little sad.
It can be scary.
Yes.
One hope I have of what this crisis will do in the past, if you come out of grad school and you take the academic track to be a researcher, or go to a national lab to be a researcher, if you deviate from that and you went, so I'm 62, when I finished grad school, if you went into industry or you went into an NGO, that was a one-way trip. You weren't getting back into research.
Right.
And that, I think, has always been such a shame. And right now, because everybody's looking for a job anywhere, my hope is some of those boundaries will be more plastic and that you'll be able to move from industry back into research, because that would benefit everybody. Go work for a company trying to produce something for a few years with engineers and people that think differently than people that are, really focused on basic research, and then bring that back to the university for a few years. So maybe it'll get much more movable. I would love to see that.
That sounds so obvious, doesn't it? But it's not done.
Oh, it's not obvious at all.
But it's getting experience from different aspects of science and at its highest. If you take science in general, at SAMS we've got the Scientific Robotics Academy, and part of its remit is speaking to engineers. So we're getting researchers and engineers to work together, because what they found was the scientists were saying, I'd love to do this, but there's not really an autonomous system that does this. And the engineers were building things that they thought the scientists could benefit from, but there wasn't necessarily the conversation happening. So what you're describing there is just that.
That's it.
If you go and work in industry, if you go and work in policy for a while and can come back to research, what a CV you'd have.
Wouldn't that be great?
Yes, and you'd have so much more experience, real world experience. You'd understand the impacts of your world. It would be great.
I also think it would help with the timing. I mean, one of the things about academia is we tend to work on like 3 to 5 year time cycles because that's the grants. So things can take from idea to when you get it into a publication or out into the world can be a long time. And now at Bigelow, we're moving into some commercial work, and in business, it's 6 months. If you haven't produced something, they're wondering. So and right now, and especially with things around climate change, we're out of time. We need to solve some of these things now. So again, if we can make those borders a little movable, that could also, light a fire under, as a academic for 25 years, we need to speed up the pace.
We talk about funding, and it's. I always say when the scientists at SAMS, when you're devising your key messages, and try to avoid saying at the end, "I need more funding for," because yourselves, every scientist says need more funding. It's the what you need to do next. Why you need the funding. So we've talked about maybe the reduction in funding. And again, you've got the US perspective, and arguably a global perspective as well because of your positions. What do we need it for now? Is it more ships? Is it more time? What is the most pressing need?
In the U.S. right now, the ocean science community in terms of infrastructure is really, I would argue, is in a state of crisis. We've lost half of our academic research fleet, which is the fleet of ships that scientists that propose science and send proposals to the federal agencies apply for time on those ships. We've gone from 34 to 16.
Wow. Okay.
We don't have any research icebreakers right now, and we have lost our drill ship, which is what we use to do deep course and really study the deep ocean and the subsea floor.
Has that been over a few years, that change?
The ships have been over the last 50 years, but there's no plan right now in place to replace the big global ships. The icebreakers, the leases for the 2 big icebreakers have been in the last few years, and it's just been in the last year that the drill ship is gone. So it's really bad. And the long-term implications of that, both from the standpoint of recruiting new scientists, because you want to hook an undergrad that's trying to figure out if they want to go to medical school or be a researcher in ocean science, put them on a ship. Either they'll throw up a lot and then they'll be a great doctor one day, or they're going to be hooked. So those ships are so critical, and they are so essential to oceanography and answering the questions. And there's a lot of people in the U.S. that are like, oh, we need autonomous vehicles and sensors. Absolutely we do. But we launch those from ships.
Yeah.
So that they are never going to replace ships. So we are working really hard to try to deal with that. The other thing that I think we desperately, desperately need, and I've seen the benefit now that I'm president and do a lot of fundraising, on the kind of philanthropic funds that provide continuous funding over many years. The kind of creativity that unleashes in scientists, I really see the damage of these 3 to 5 year grant cycles where you are constantly, you're stopping and starting again. So trying to figure out a way within the federal system that we can have more sustained career. Right. That's how we will accelerate the speed of science.
That big issue comes up. You'll be relieved to hear on this side of the pond as well.
I'm not relieved. I wish you had an answer and we could go, okay, we'll do that. So solve the problem, and then we'll just copy you.
Once we go off air, we'll sort it out between us.
Okay.
Janice, what about you? You got thoughts on that?
Well, to me, because I'm an attorney and not a scientist, I always think about the
You're in a safe
public
space here, don't
policy.
worry.
I know. I always get a lot of blowback on being a lawyer. But I think the overall focus on climate and very much the brinksmanship of coming very, very close to climate denialism, I think is incredibly dangerous. And in my view, we have to keep funding that research because it is having an impact. You can name it what you want, but it has to continue, and it is so broad and covers so much territory, the ocean, the air, it just soil, everything about it, that I really think that we have to stay focused on things that contribute to the understanding of climate change and can scale it back. We have to recognize this is dangerous for many millions of people on this earth. How are we going to fix it? So to me, I'm taking sort of a long view, and we need ships, by the way. I'm going to agree with
Thank
you.
We desperately need ships.
But I want us thinking about the big picture. I want us really focused on climate change. It's not going away. One of the things I've seen this week are the dramatic effects of it. And we have to make sure people understand it, which means we need to be good communicators. We have to communicate this to policymakers, and we have to keep the pressure on.
One of the things about climate change is that I feel when I give talks to the public, there seems to be this sense that we can choose to deal with it or not. It is not a choice.
No.
We will either be proactive and we will figure out how to build resilient communities, or we are going to be counting the bodies and moving inland, and the destruction that will all cost so much more in lives and money than getting our act together and saying, this is coming. We're seeing it. It's already here. I used to live in Virginia. Every time there's a big storm, there's more houses that don't get rebuilt. Mm-hmm. So it's happening. It's happening all around the world now. This isn't something in the future. And it's not a choice. It's coming at us. We can either deal with it, take it as an opportunity to rebuild a world that is safer and more resilient, or we're just going to be cleaning up a mess continuously.
Poignant pause there.
Okay,
Deborah,
I know.
Just had to take that in. I think, terrible time to move on.
Wait, can I add one? Okay, let me ask one hopeful thing. Just give me one hopeful thing.
Isn't it?
One hopeful thing, though, is we think about the cost of academic research. The return on investment for academic research is colossal. Look at what the U.S. stock market's been doing. NVIDIA, right? NVIDIA, Apple, Google, Alphabet, all of these different companies would not be existing if it wasn't for the basic research, in most cases by the U.S. government, trying to understand just how the world works. So, there's a great ad. If you love your iPhone, thank the U.S. government, because Steve Jobs and his engineers picked all this information out of decades of investment of things that I'm guarantee you none of these geeky sounding proposals that got funded by physicists ever thought it was going to turn into an iPhone in their pocket. Mm-hmm. So yes, it is a cost. Yes, whether you agree with climate change or not, it's a cost, but you will benefit from that expense because it's going to do so many other things and teach us about climate change. It is, the return on investment for research is enormous.
It's an important point. We've talked a lot about the US, well, quite rightly, because I've got two Americans with me. But we're the Ocean Sciences meeting this year is in Glasgow, in Scotland, and it's the first time outside of the US. So I was really keen to ask about why it came here. Mm-hmm. Essentially, it fascinates me. Yeah. Obviously, Scotland is the centre of the universe. But
it never occurred to us to go anywhere else.
But I'm sure there's good reasons other than that. Yeah. So, Janice, as the chief executive of one of the organising organisations, the AGU, can you kind of take me behind the scenes there,
Sure.
behind that decision.
Sure. Well, first of all, it was a recognition that exactly of what we've been talking about on this podcast. Science has no borders. And we realized that having the meeting continuously in the United States was extraordinarily valuable to people, but it didn't have the right global mix of talent, brain power, intellect to come together. Travel's very expensive. You talk about grants being cut back. People are reluctant to invest in a trip somewhere. And so the thinking was, what if we brought the meeting to them? What if we brought the meeting to the world? And perhaps Glasgow is the center of the world for that reason, at least for this week, at least for the ocean,
For this week, absolutely.
at least for the ocean, which is so important to all of us. But there were some very specific reasons for Glasgow. And one of the things we always look for in locating a meeting is, are the values aligned? Does the organization, does the place have a sense, share our sense of responsibility to the environment, to the climate? The blue economy vision that Scotland has was, first of all, just a wonderful evidence of commitment to the things that we share, that this community values. And also, this very facility has a very, very strong commitment to sustainability. If you walk around the offices behind all these rooms, the lights don't go on till you open the door, then the lights go on. So little things like that, as we know, add up. And, that's what we try to communicate to the public. Every little step you take makes a big difference. And Glasgow has demonstrated their commitment to that and their understanding of how to make this work. So it was a fairly easy decision to come here and really think about it. It also worked, which is really great. In the past, we've had this meeting now every 2 years for some 40 years. Typically, the attendance is 2/3 scientists from the United States, 1/3 from outside the United States. At this meeting, we have completely flipped that. Right. So 2/3 of the scientists are from outside the United States, 1/3
so
from
your
the
experiment
US.
Worked to increase the globalization.
So we're expanding the universe. We're bringing new people into this wonderful community of committed professionals who want to make progress. Everyone's meeting new people. Everyone's expanding their network. And that's a win-win for everybody. So Glasgow is going to have a very, very special place, I think, in the history of research on the ocean, just because it changed that dynamic and just demonstrated to everybody how important it is to expand the universe, get people thinking about, in new ways, about the needs that the population has.
We also, international meetings also tend to be bigger than we expect that they'll be. ASLO's been doing every other year, ASLO does a meeting with a lot of the same people come, but we do it individually. And we've had it out of the country many times, and it was just in Spain 2 years ago. And they are always big meetings. We attract a lot of people from Europe to come. But I want to know, are they going to come back to the U.S.? Because we have these big meetings. How do we keep the Europeans coming regardless of where we are?
Okay.
So that's retention is going to be, we want to keep them part of our community.
So the next meeting will be in Vancouver. So maybe we're just going to continue doing a tour of the British Commonwealth. I don't know. I mean, maybe we'll just go around the world and do it that way. But we have not decided on locations beyond that. At some point, it will and should come back to the United States. This is a wonderful way to demonstrate the importance of this research and this work. And there are so many people in power in the United States that have to get that message. So
Indeed.
at some point we'll come back to the United States.
It's lucky that it was here this year, because I know there's a lot of people in Europe that would not have traveled to the U.S. I mean, it's a scary time at our borders right now, even for some Americans returning home.
Right.
It is unprecedented, some of the things that are happening.
Just the hassle of getting in.
Yeah.
Just-
And I
it's-
think, and there are costs, and there are real, the visa situation. It's just a challenge.
We've
to
got to fix it,
travel.
because, if we can't get people to come back to the United States, what have we lost? I mean, that's tragic.
True.
But Glasgow has been fantastic. We are oceanographers. I'm going to also guess, I wasn't involved in these decisions, but the quality of the pubs had to, at some point, be a consideration. And it's been spectacular, Janice.
Yeah.
Nice job.
I hope
Thank
it
you.
has met your expectations, Deborah. Yeah. So I want to take this opportunity while I have two people in leadership roles within ocean science to get your perspectives on what's next. Well, we've talked about, I guess, what we need to do and how we need to get more funding for various things. But in terms of recent developments, new technologies, what's exciting you on the horizon? Where do you see ocean sciences going from your perspective?
I think when I think back of when I was in graduate school, one of all the data in my entire dissertation that I killed myself over 5 years to do, a student today can collect more information on one cruise, right? The speed that we can collect data, either because of new instrumentation, because of automated sensors, because of autonomous vehicles, it's a little insane. At Bigelow, we've really focused on the base of the ocean food web, so the microbes, the phytoplankton, the bacteria, and a lot of molecular tools. But even those, the amount of data they can produce is so enormous. So that is exciting. Just the fact that we can, create that magnitude of data quickly, high quality data. But then you got to turn it into something. You got to be able to extract information from it. And so the AI aspects of, I think AI gives me hope that we will be able to quickly turn massive amounts of data into usable tools, products, discoveries. And so I'm really psyched about that. When I walk through the technology things, when I walk through the biogeochemical, I'm a biogeochemist, how rapidly and how much data they can collect just blows my mind. Mm-hmm. But it makes it, on one hand, part of their job is harder. On the other hand, I mean, that is just a fire hose of information that you then have to tease out meaning. And that's hard.
Yep.
AI is going to really help us in that sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we also need the humans. Yeah. We
you-
also need the humans to interpret it. I'm going to build on that, because what I've been impressed with here, one of the many things I've been impressed with, is how technology is being used to really enhance the research that these scientists are doing. There's marine carbon dioxide removal research. It's been a huge topic here. And since the ocean is the planet's largest climate regulator, the idea that might be enhanced, or that there might be some technology, some people say it's here now. I'm going to wait and see. That's just my view. But the fact that has become a research priority, I think, is really significant, because if we can find ways to help the ocean do its job even more effectively, that's great news.
Sure.
We also want to be sure, though, that it's being done properly. AGU has advanced an ethical framework for carbon dioxide removal efforts, whether it's solar or marine-based. We want to make sure that communities that are impacted are involved in the design of the research. We want to be sure there's transparency. We want to be sure that any findings or data that are collected is shared, that it's open and accessible to other researchers. There are a lot of players in this field. It's private sector, it's academia, it's governments who are involved in it. How can we all come together and really think about doing this research ethically, appropriately, involving those who are impacted, yet always think about the future. How could we help the ocean do its job? And how can we save the ocean going forward?
I'll need to stew on that for a while, Janice. That's quite a lot of thoughts.
I know.
That's why
okay.
That's why you need the ethical framework, right?
That's
now.
right. That's why you need the ethical framework. You start there, and then
yeah.
you build your research around that, around those principles.
Okay.
That's so important, because I feel like part of what we're dealing with in the United States right now is social. A lot of the political kind of mess we're in is social media driven, right? It's been going on for the last decade. We're having elections being impacted by other countries through social media. We launched, science and engineering launched this incredible technology. We didn't have an ethical framework in place to protect society from it. So getting ahead of the ethical framework and really thinking about that before we go gangbusters doing anything in the ocean is really important, hugely important.
We've covered some massive topics today, and I found it thrilling actually to hear your thoughts on these things. But I just want to finish on maybe a lighter note. A kind of, we're on day 4 of the conference. I'm sure you've had some wonderful meetings and experiences in Glasgow. What's been your highlight of your experience?
I can tell you the highlight of any meeting for me is I get to hug like 700 people, which is why the previous meetings the last several years were just massive COVID.
You're definitely a fan of in-person meetings.
Yeah. So you get to see all of your friends and colleagues that you went to grad school, were on a cruise with, were on a panel with. So the big part for me is always just seeing everybody. But also, I think I've been interacting with so many students in the U.S., been invited to talk about various things, and there's just a fear and a sadness in a lot of them, because they don't know what's coming at them or what's going to happen. I have not seen that here. I feel like everybody's pumped right now. We're just pumping each other up, and so I'm leaving here really encouraged, and I also got to hug our program officers. Probably they're like, she's really very touchy, but just also trying to do what we can to encourage and try to support the people that are in the trenches and the agencies that are it's a really tough job. So seeing everybody, seeing the enthusiasm of the next generation, that they're just going to make this work one way or another, and really trying to pump up our program officers, because we so desperately need them. But it is, I really think, a soul-crushing job right now.
Well, I'm going to say, Deb, you've got your work cut out for you for the next 2 days, because if you've only hugged 700 people, there are 6,500 people here. So you better get with it. I'll tell you. Yeah. You better get out there and start hugging more people.
I know. I was worried I was too touchy. Maybe I'm not.
I love it. I love it.
What about you?
For me, interestingly, I met with a scientist from SAMS.
Oh, right.
And she, first of all, an incredible person. She was a big help in shaping and framing this conference as part of our program committee. But her picture on her bio, she's holding this little creature in her hand.
I now know who it is.
And I asked her, I didn't even know what it was. Like, what are you holding? And it was a sea urchin. And she's doing work on why sea urchins don't get some of the same illnesses, conditions that humans get, and what can we learn from sea urchins. For example, she educated me on the fact that sea urchins don't get cancer.
Yeah.
So there is so much to learn. It's just this eye-opening opportunity to be here and think, what else could you figure out if we just invested in the kind of research that could change not only the planet, which we worry about. I'm guilty of this. I talk about the planet and the planet's well-being and society as a whole. think about the impact you could have on individual lives if you just supported that kind of research into a greater scale, into a way that would spread around the world. It could be, talk about a game changer. It would change everything.
I think that's an amazing point to end on. I've thoroughly enjoyed speaking with you today, with both of you, and I'm glad I got the opportunity to ask two people genuinely in leading positions in ocean science for your thoughts on various things. So thank you so much for your time, and good luck for the next Ocean Sciences meeting, wherever they may be, but it sounds like you might be back to Glasgow at some point in the future, even if just to stock up on more whiskey, Deborah.
I know.
Yes. So thanks again for your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Bye-bye.